Let me tell you about a village called Kalapur, tucked deep in a forest where the air always felt heavy. There lived Tara, a curious baker with a sharp mind, always asking questions. Her best friend Vikram was a woodcutter, strong but superstitious, jumping at every odd sound. Then there was Suman, the village teacher who loved old stories but doubted the spooky ones. And finally, Arjun, a quiet outsider who'd arrived months ago, always sketching the forest's edge. One rainy afternoon, Tara was exploring the old mill, abandoned since her grandpa's days. She found a dusty journal under a floorboard, its pages brittle but filled with strange drawings and warnings about a watcher in the woods. She showed it to Vikram, who shivered, saying he'd heard rustling at night. Suman laughed it off, calling it a prank, but Arjun's face went pale, like he'd seen those drawings before. That night, Tara couldn't sleep, the journal's words circling her mind. She felt watched through her window, though nothing was there. The next morning, Tara gathered Vikram, Suman, and Arjun at the mill to show them the journal. Its pages told of a traveler who vanished years ago, leaving only whispers of a deal made with something in the forest. Vikram swore he'd seen a shadow move between trees last week, too tall to be human. Suman, ever practical, said it was probably a bear, but her voice wavered. Arjun stayed quiet, tracing the journal's symbols with a trembling finger. Tara noticed his unease and pressed him, but he only said he'd heard stories from his old village about a watcher that guarded secrets. They decided to search the forest's edge, where the journal hinted at a hidden clearing. As they walked, the trees seemed to lean closer, the air thick with damp moss and something sour. Vikram clutched his axe, muttering about curses. Suman kept reading the journal, finding a map scratched in the back. Arjun lagged behind, glancing over his shoulder like he expected trouble. By dusk, they found the clearing marked by a circle of stones. In the center was a carved tree, its bark etched with the same symbols as the journal. A cold wind hit them, and Tara swore she heard a whisper call her name. The group stood frozen in the clearing, the carved tree looming like a silent judge. Tara's heart raced as she touched the bark, feeling a strange warmth. The journal mentioned a promise made by the missing traveler, something about guarding a secret for the watcher. Vikram whispered they should leave, his eyes darting to the darkening woods. Suman, flipping through the journal, found a note about a key hidden near the tree. Arjun, still quiet, started digging at the roots, his hands shaking. Tara helped, her fingers brushing something metal, a small rusted box. Inside was a pendant, glowing faintly under the moonlight. Suman gasped, recognizing it from old village tales about a lost love. The story went that the traveler, a woman named Leela, loved a man forbidden to her. She vanished after hiding something precious. Vikram clutched his axe tighter, saying he felt eyes on them. Arjun finally spoke, admitting he'd come to Kalapur chasing rumors of Leela, his great-aunt. The pendant was hers, he said, and it held power the village elders feared. As he spoke, a twig snapped nearby, loud in the silence. Tara's breath caught. She saw a shadow shift beyond the trees, tall and wrong. Suman whispered to stay calm, but her voice shook. They grabbed the pendant and ran back to the village, the forest alive with rustling behind them. Back in Tara's bakery, the group huddled around the pendant, its faint glow casting eerie shadows. Vikram wanted to burn the journal and pendant, convinced they were cursed. Suman argued they needed to understand the truth, pointing to the journal's mentions of a ritual to appease the watcher. Arjun's eyes were distant, like he was piecing together a puzzle. He said Leela's lover was a forest spirit, a secret the village hid. Tara felt a chill, remembering the shadow in the woods. She suggested they talk to old Rani, the village storyteller who knew every tale. They found Rani by her fire, her eyes sharp despite her age. She took one look at the pendant and hissed, saying it was Leela's vow to the Watcher, a spirit that guarded the forest's heart. Leela broke her promise, and the Watcher never forgave. Ronnie warned them to return the pendant to the carved tree before the next full moon, tomorrow night, or the Watcher would come for them. Vikram laughed nervously, but Tara noticed Arjun's clenched fists. As they left, a low moan echoed from the forest, too human to be the wind. Suman's logic faltered. She admitted the journal's warnings felt real now. Tara locked the bakery door, but sleep wouldn't come. The pendant seemed to hum on her table. The next day, tension hung over Kalapur like fog. Tara couldn't shake the feeling of being watched even in her bakery. Vikram showed up, his axe slung over his shoulder, saying he'd heard footsteps outside his hut all night. Suman arrived with the journal, having found a sketch of the pendant linked to a ritual at the carved tree. Arjun was late, his face drawn when he finally appeared, admitting he'd dreamed of Leela begging him to finish her promise. They agreed to return the pendant that night despite Vikram's protests. As dusk fell, they trekked back to the clearing, the forest unnaturally quiet. Tara clutched the pendant, its glow brighter now. Suman read the ritual aloud. Place the pendant in the tree's hollow and speak Leela's name. Arjun hesitated, saying he felt Leela's fear in his bones. Vikram kept watch, his axe ready, muttering about shadows moving closer. They reached the clearing and Tara placed the pendant in the hollow. She whispered Leela's name, and the air grew heavy, like a storm was brewing. The ground trembled slightly, and a low voice, not quite human, echoed from the trees, asking why they disturbed its rest. Suman dropped the journal, her bravery gone. Arjun stepped forward, shouting that Leela was sorry. The voice laughed, cold and sharp, and the shadows grew taller. The voice from the trees sent ice down Tara's spine. It wasn't human, but it carried pain, like a wound that never healed. Arjun stood firm, repeating Leela's apology, his voice shaking but loud. The Watcher's shadow loomed larger, its form vague but towering, with eyes like embers. Vikram raised his axe, yelling for it to back off, but the shadow didn't flinch. Suman grabbed the journal, frantically reading for any clue to calm the spirit. She found a line about offering truth to mend a broken vow. Tara, heart-pounding, stepped beside Arjun, holding the pendant high. She shouted that they knew Leela's story, her love, her betrayal, her regret. The Watcher paused, its eyes narrowing. Arjun spoke next, saying Leela hid the pendant to protect the village, not to steal power. The air grew still, the shadow shrinking slightly. Suman, voice trembling, read Leela's final journal entry aloud, a plea for forgiveness. The Watcher's voice softened, asking for proof of their honesty. Tara's mind raced. She remembered Ronnie's warning about the full moon. They had to show trust. She placed the pendant back in the hollow, unguarded. Vikram cursed, thinking it a trap, but Arjun nodded, trusting Tara's instinct. The shadow flickered, then retreated, whispering, "One night remains." The group stumbled back to the village, shaken but alive, the pendant still glowing faintly in the tree. At dawn, Kalapur felt different, like the forest was holding its breath. Tara barely slept, the Watcher's voice echoing in her mind. Vikram was angry, saying they should have destroyed the pendant instead of trusting a spirit. Suman, poring over the journal, found a hint that the Watcher wasn't evil, just bound to protect the forest's secret. A spring that granted life, but demanded loyalty. Arjun admitted he'd felt Leela's presence again, urging him to finish the ritual. They went to Ronnie, who looked frailer today, her eyes darting to the pendant's empty chain around Tara's neck. She revealed more. Leela's lover, the spirit, wasn't the Watcher, but its guardian. Leela's betrayal was leaving the spring unguarded, letting outsiders nearly find it. The Watcher punished her and now tested them. Ronnie said the ritual needed a sacrifice, not blood, but something dear. Tara thought of her bakery, her home, but pushed the idea away. Vikram offered his axe, his livelihood, but Suman shook her head. saying it had to be personal. Arjun stayed silent, his sketches of the forest now filled with Leela's face. By noon, they planned to return to the clearing at midnight under the full moon. The village felt emptier, as if others sensed the coming reckoning. Tara noticed shadows moving in the corner of her eye, gone when she turned. As night approached, Tara's nerves frayed. The pendant's absence felt heavy, like losing a piece of herself. Vikram sharpened his axe, muttering about fighting if the Watcher turned on them. Suman clutched the journal, now believing every word, her logic replaced by fear. Arjun sketched the clearing obsessively, saying Leela's spirit was guiding him. They met at the forest's edge, the moon bright and cold. The path to the clearing felt shorter, the trees less hostile but still watchful. Tara led, her heart thudding, sensing the Watcher nearby. In the clearing, the carved tree glowed faintly, the pendant pulsing in its hollow. Suman read the ritual's final step. Offer something you love to prove your heart. Vikram hesitated, then placed his axe at the tree's base, his hands shaking. Suman offered her favorite book, a gift from her mother. Arjun set down his sketchbook, filled with Leela's story. Tara, trembling, gave her grandmother's ring, her only keepsake. The Watcher's shadow appeared, smaller now, its eyes less harsh. It spoke, voice like rustling leaves, asking why they cared for Leela's sin. Arjun answered, saying they wanted peace for the village and Leela's soul. The Watcher hummed, considering. The ground shook, and the spring appeared behind the tree, its water glowing. The Watcher demanded one final truth. Who would guard the spring now? Silence fell, heavy and tense. Tara's breath caught as the spring's glow lit the clearing, its water shimmering like liquid starlight. The Watcher's eyes bored into them, waiting for an answer. Vikram stepped back, saying he wasn't brave enough to guard anything but his own life. Suman, clutching the journal, admitted she loved knowledge but feared the forest's power. Arjun's gaze was steady, his voice low as he offered himself, saying Leela's blood ran in him, and he felt her regret. Tara protested, saying they'd all face the Watcher together, but Arjun shook his head, certain this was his path. The Watcher's shadow softened, almost human now, and nodded. It spoke of Leela's love, how it bound her to the spring, and how Arjun's choice honored her. The pendant flared bright, then dimmed, sinking into the spring's water. The ground steadied, the air lighter. The Watcher vanished, leaving only a whisper. Guard it well. Arjun stayed by the spring, his face calm but sad. Tara, Vikram, and Suman stumbled back to Kalapur, the forest silent now. They didn't speak, each lost in what they'd given up. The village slept, unaware of the night's weight. Morning broke over Kalapur, the forest quieter than ever. Tara opened her bakery, but her hands moved slowly, her ring gone. Vikram chopped wood with a borrowed axe, his old one left at the tree. Suman taught her class, but her eyes kept drifting to the empty spot where her book once sat. Arjun didn't return. Villagers whispered he'd left for good, but Tara knew he was at the spring, bound to it like Leela. She visited the clearing alone that evening, finding it peaceful, the carved tree just a tree now. The spring still glowed faintly, and she swore she saw Arjun's shadow move across it, but he didn't appear. Back in the village, Rani smiled knowingly when Tara told her, saying the Watcher was satisfied, the balance restored. Vikram and Suman joined Tara later, sharing bread in her bakery. They didn't talk about the spring or Arjun, but the journal lay open between them, its pages blank now. The forest felt alive again, not with menace, but with a quiet watchfulness. Tara wondered if Arjun was happy, guarding the spring, or if he felt trapped like Leela. She'd never know, but she felt the village was safe again. Days passed, and Kalapur settled into a fragile calm. Tara noticed the villagers smiled more, as if a shadow had lifted, but she couldn't shake the memory of Arjun's choice, his quiet resolve. Vikram avoided the forest now, sticking to the village square, his laughter forced. Suman buried herself in teaching, but Tara caught her staring at the woods, lost in thought. One evening, a stranger arrived, asking about a missing artist, Arjun. Tara hesitated, then said he'd moved on, her voice tight. The stranger left, unconvinced, but didn't press. That night, Tara dreamed of the spring, its water calling her name. She woke sweating, the air in her room too still. She met Vikram and Suman at the mill, where they admitted having similar dreams. They agreed to check the clearing, just once. The forest felt different, welcoming, almost warm. The carved tree stood silent, no glow, no pendant. But a new sketch lay at its base, Arjun's style, showing the spring with a figure guarding it. Suman gasped, saying it was Leela's face, not Arjun's. Vikram swore he heard a soft hum, like the watcher approving. Tara felt a chill, wondering if Arjun had joined Leela in the spring's magic. The sketch haunted Tara. She kept it in her bakery, hidden under the counter. Vikram started carving small figures, saying it eased his nerves, but he never went near the forest. Suman began writing her own journal, piecing together Kalapur's forgotten stories, hoping to understand the watcher. One night, a storm hit, fiercer than any in years. Tara woke to pounding on her door. Vikram, soaked, saying the forest was glowing. They grabbed Suman and ran to the clearing, rain lashing their faces. The spring shone brighter than ever, its water swirling. Arjun stood there, but not quite Arjun. His eyes glowed like the watcher's. He spoke, voice layered with another's, saying the spring was safe, but the village must never seek its power. Tara nodded, tears mixing with rain. Vikram dropped to his knees, whispering apologies. Suman clutched her new journal, promising to keep the secret. Arjun, or whatever he was, smiled faintly, then vanished into the spring. The storm stopped, the forest silent. They returned to Kalapur, soaked but lighter, knowing the watcher's trust was theirs to keep. Kalapur felt reborn after the storm, the air crisp and clean. Tara baked with new energy, but the sketch stayed tucked away, a quiet reminder. Vikram took up carving full-time, his figures lining the village square, each one a silent nod to the forest. Suman's journal grew thick, her stories weaving the watcher into Kalapur's history without revealing the spring. Villagers noticed the change, asking why the forest seemed friendlier. Tara, Vikram, and Suman shared glances, but said nothing. One evening, a child found a pendant by the forest's edge, identical to Leela's. Tara's heart skipped, but she told the child to keep it, hoping it was just a trinket. That night, she dreamed of Arjun, standing by the spring, smiling free. She woke calm, feeling he'd found peace. Vikram and Suman met her at the bakery, sensing the same. They burned the sketch together, letting its ashes scatter in the wind. The forest rustled, as if approving. Tara felt the watcher's gaze, not menacing now, but watchful, ensuring Kalapur's promise held. Weeks later, Kalapur buzzed with a festival, the first since the spring secret was sealed. Tara's bakery overflowed with orders, her hands steady despite the lingering weight of Arjun's absence. Vikram's carvings sold fast, each one telling a silent story of the forest. Suman read her tales to the children, weaving magic without truth, keeping the spring hidden. But at night, Tara noticed shadows moving differently, like the forest was restless again. She confided in Vikram and Suman, who admitted feeling it too. They avoided the clearing, fearing they'd disturb the watcher. One night, a villager claimed he saw a glowing figure by the mill. Tara's stomach dropped, but she brushed it off publicly, saying it was moonlight. Privately, she, Vikram, and Suman trekked to the clearing. The spring was calm, no glow, no Arjun. But a new carving marked the tree, Leela's face, serene. Suman whispered it was a gift, a sign the watcher trusted them. Vikram nodded, his fear easing. Tara felt the forest's pulse, steady and kind, as if it forgave them for their curiosity. The festival's joy lingered, but Tara couldn't fully relax. The new carving stayed in her mind, Leela's face too real. Vikram started sleeping with a knife under his pillow, admitting he heard whispers again. Suman's journal now included dreams of the spring, each one sharper, like warnings. They met at the bakery, debating whether to check the clearing again. Tara feared stirring the watcher, but curiosity pulled her. They went at dawn, the forest quiet but heavy. The carved tree stood unchanged, Leela's face still there, but the spring's water was clearer, reflecting their faces like a mirror. Vikram swore he saw Arjun's eyes in his reflection, but Suman said it was guilt playing tricks. Tara touched the water, feeling a warmth that calmed her. A soft voice, not the watcher's, whispered, "Keep the secret." They froze, but nothing appeared. Back in Kalapur, they vowed silence, even to each other. The village thrived, unaware of the spring's power. Tara baked, Vikram carved, Suman wrote, each carrying the forest's weight in their hearts, bound by a promise they'd never break. Months passed, and Kalapur grew prosperous, the forest's shadow fading into legend. Tara's bakery became a hub, her bread a quiet tribute to the spring's peace. Vikram's carvings adorned every home, each one a ward against old fears. Suman's stories were now village treasures told around fires, the watcher a myth to thrill children. But Tara noticed small signs, a flower blooming out of season, a breeze carrying a faint hum. She kept them to herself, not wanting to alarm Vikram or Suman. One night, a traveler arrived asking about a glowing spring. Tara's heart raced, but she lied, saying it was just a tale. The traveler left, but his eyes lingered too long. She told Vikram and Suman, who agreed to watch the forest's edge. That night, they found footprints near the clearing, too large for a villager. The spring was untouched, but the carved tree had a new mark, a handprint, fresh and deep. Suman whispered it was a test, the watcher checking their resolve. Vikram gripped his knife, ready to fight. Tara felt the forest's gaze, steady but firm, urging them to stay true. The footprints shook Tara, but she hid her fear, baking through the night to stay calm. Vikram patrolled the village, his knife always close, muttering about outsiders. Suman dug through old records, finding mentions of others who sought the spring, all turned away by the watcher. They met at the mill, now a quiet place, and agreed to guard the secret closer. Tara suggested marking the forest's edge with Vikram's carvings, a subtle warning. He carved fiercely, his hands steady with purpose. Suman wrote a new tale, framing the spring as a cursed place to deter seekers. A week later, the traveler returned, asking pointed questions at the tavern. Tara served him bread, watching his eyes. He left without answers, but she felt his intent linger. That night, the forest hummed louder, and Tara dreamed of Leela, warning her to protect Arjun's sacrifice. She woke, heart pounding, and checked the clearing alone. The spring glowed faintly, and Arjun's voice, not the watcher's, whispered, "Stay strong." Tara returned, vowing to keep Kalapur safe, the forest's secret hers to bear. Kalapur's winter was harsh, but the village held strong, warmed by Tara's bread and Suman's stories. Vikram's carvings lined the forest's edge, their faces fierce, scaring off curious travelers. But Tara felt the watcher's gaze, not angry but watchful, like a parent checking a child's promise. Suman found an old map in the mill, showing paths to the spring only elders knew. They burned it, agreeing no one else should find it. One night, a scream echoed from the forest. Vikram grabbed his knife, Tara her lantern, and Suman her journal, rushing to the clearing. A young villager, curious about the tales, lay fainted by the spring, unharmed but pale. The carved tree's handprint glowed, a warning. Tara revived the boy, swearing him to silence. He nodded, terrified, and ran home. Suman said the watcher was protecting the spring, not punishing. Vikram wasn't so sure, his eyes scanning the trees. Tara felt Arjun's presence, steady and calm, guiding them. Back in the village, they spread a story of a wild animal, keeping the spring's truth buried. The forest quieted, its trust intact. Spring brought new life to Kalapur, but Tara, Vikram, and Suman stayed vigilant. The boys' scare spread whispers, but their animal story held. Tara baked with a heavier heart, missing Arjun's quiet sketches. Vikram carved larger figures, placing them deeper in the forest, his way of honoring the watcher. Suman's journal was nearly full, her stories now a shield for the spring. One evening, Rani called them to her hut, her voice weak but sharp. She said the watcher was pleased but warned that secrets draw seekers. She gave Tara a small stone, carved with Leela's symbol, saying it would guide them if trouble came. That night the forest hummed again, and Tara clutched the stone, feeling its warmth. She dreamed of the spring, Arjun and Leela standing together, smiling. She woke with hope, sharing the dream with Vikram and Suman. They agreed to check the clearing one last time. The spring was calm, the carved tree bare of new marks. A soft breeze carried Arjun's voice, saying, "You've done enough." The watcher's shadow flickered, then faded, its eyes kind. Kalapur was safe, the promise kept. Years later, Kalapur thrived, its forest a place of quiet beauty. Tara's bakery was a legend, her bread said to carry the forest's blessing. Vikram's carvings guarded every path, his fear long gone, replaced by pride. Suman's stories were sung by children, the watcher a hero, not a ghost. The spring remained hidden, its glow a secret only they carried. Tara kept the stone Rani gave her, its warmth a comfort on cold nights. Villagers spoke of Arjun as a wanderer who found peace, never knowing his true fate. Tara, Vikram, and Suman grew older, their bond forged by the spring's weight. One night, under a full moon, Tara visited the clearing alone. The spring sparkled, and she saw Arjun's face in the water, Leela beside him, both at rest. The watcher's presence was gone, its duty done. Tara smiled, knowing their sacrifice. Her ring, Vikram's axe, Suman's book, Arjun's life, had saved Kalapur. She returned to the village, the forest whispering softly, its secret safe forever. The story lived in her heart, a tale she'd never tell, but always carry,